So we have an impossible task here that we've sort of offering ourselves, and that is to, in some sense, at least explore these deep questions of what happens when you get people who ordinarily would never sit still for a moment in the kind of way that George has taught them to, and then apply that in action on the field, on the court. Uh, did you see moments that actually revealed something to you that you didn't even imagine was possible when you got into this kind of thing? I'm guessing there were many, many such moments, and that there are real uh, lessons here about how to, sort of wake up the potential in a range of different kinds of personalities and people with different kinds of talents, and maybe some degree of animosity among all of themselves, and find some kind of common willingness to expand their minds and hearts for a purpose that's no longer winning the game so much as showing what's possible under impossible odds.
I think that I have an illustration that might help in that regard, John. And that's, we had a game that year without Michael Jordan. We had a very successful season up until the last regular season game. We were tied for first place in our Eastern Conference. And during the playoffs, we had a situation where we had a player, Scottie Pippen, not go in a ball game and refuse to go in the basketball game.
Right. I remember the incident.
There are a lot of things behind that weren't revealed in that video of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
But in the process of going back to the locker room after, Tony Kukoc had hit a shot to win the ball game, the team was hurt. And when I went down in the locker room, I usually give them a little bit of space, and I take out contacts to do that and wash my face in cold water. And our lavatory was right beside the shower room. And in the shower room, I heard our other co-captain, Bill Cartwright, crying, sobbing, actually. And I went in the shower and I said, "Bill, are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm just so hurt that Scotty, broke up what we were doing as a team." And I said, "Let's go back out and we'll talk about it as a team." And so we went back into the locker room, tiny little locker room. And I said, "Scotty, this is something that is against all principles of team play. And, I could express, our disappointment in it, but I think Bill, as a co-captain with you, could probably talk about it better than I can." And Bill just, talked about how the team had tried to overcome the loss of Michael Jordan the whole year. And they had played together so well without an ego, without trying to be selfish in an unselfish manner, that this hurt very deeply. And there's a regulation that you have to be out of the locker room in an X amount of time and meet the press. And my time was up to meet the press. I walked out of the locker room and I felt that the locker room was going to be safe. And I think the team was going to be safe. And we were. We went on and played, to the seventh game in that playoffs. We lost eventually to the Knicks. But it was a team that I think got healed around it. And when I went into the practice site the next day, Michael Jordan called. He was at baseball, and he said, "I don't think Scottie Pippen is ever going to live down the moment when he didn't go in a ball game," which is kind of true when it come back to seeing this Last Dance. It hurt, I think, Scottie Pippen again. And we had to, as team members, had to reach out to him during this program to assure him that his presence was very important to us and that he played as unselfish as any player, and that the circumstances that had created this animosity in him, he let control him. And the issue that was so vibrant in that whole thing was that Scotty was supposed to take the clock down to the last second in the 24-second clock and take a shot. and he was going to, and the whole sequence was going to feed into an isolation. And when he did that, and we went into this situation, Tony Kukoc ran back into that isolated zone and destroyed the ability for Scotty to take on this project of running out the clock and taking a shot. And his shot was an air ball, which let the clock go back to 3 seconds, which then eventually the Knicks inbounded the ball. It went to Ewing. He scored in the second and a half, which still left us whatever, second 2 or whatever that was on the clock. And then I diagrammed a play for Tony Kukoc, the guy who had actually destroyed Scotty's isolation, which I think was a factor in his determination not to sit out, not to participate. I mean, not to sit out that moment. So the story wasn't completely told, but we got to it. And as a team, and I think George was helpful in this, and our meditation was really helpful the next day to reclaim our group dynamic again. And I think that was probably one of the best things that happened in that process.